If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, then Sport Trade is for you. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. And if you're an experienced bettor and prefer American odds, you'll get pricing closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110, coupled with instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. So download Sport Trade today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
Sport Trade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Screen time's over.
Be home by 11?
Put your phone down while we're eating.
When parents set boundaries, keep track of where their kids go, and talk to them about the dangers of underage drinking and drugs, they keep their kids safe. Visit TalkNowAZ.com. Be the influence. Talk early. Talk often. Talk now.
Thanks. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
This message is sponsored by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
You know what time it is. We are back for another edition of Beat the Book here on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me is our betting expert, Dylan Cohen. We are broadcasting live from the Harmon Solar Studios in sunny uptown Scottsdale. And we have Monday Night Football to discuss. An ass-kicking that we all saw coming, but we'll break that down a little bit more. And in addition to the ass-kicking that we all saw coming, we now have to once again revisit the dumpster fires of the NFL. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll touch on a little bit of Suns from last night. We've got some NBA action tonight, which means, of course, that there are going to be picks in it for you. There are some different personalities that we have on the text line where you join the show, 888-368-1580. We have our more reasonable, measured gamblers. We have our gambling degenerates. We welcome all of you and want to know what you did last night. How did you do last night? Because there were some wins on this show betting on that Cowboys game. We'll talk about that. But before we get to any and all of those things, Dylan, who powers the show?
We are powered by Sport Trade. And if you have not already, search Sport Trade on your smartphone, get the app downloaded, and use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion on new account signups. And, if you happen to listen to this show yesterday, you were the fortunate recipient of some very good sports betting advice. And that's obviously what we aim to do every single episode of Beat the Book. But yesterday presented a very unique opportunity. And I find this hilarious because today within sports media and sports betting media, it seems like everyone has finally come around to this position on the Dallas Cowboys that you and I, Keon, have very firmly been on for at least the last couple of weeks, if not longer.
If not longer. Like at the beginning of this season, I didn't know they were going to be this bad, but I knew they were going to be worse than they were a year ago. They lost so much talent. They didn't really replace any of it. And the talent that they did replace, they replaced with rookies at very important positions. We're talking across that offensive line. We're talking in that secondary, and it's starting to show up. Now that you don't have Dak, it's showing up even more, and the problems are just compounding. You have a frustrated Micah Parsons, who I think he's still on a rookie deal. I don't know that Micah Parsons is going to sign anything that they put in front of him with the team looking like this. That guy is about championships. He is about winning. He talks about it all the time on his podcast. He hasn't taken any shots at the Cowboys over there, but he has mentioned many times how important it is for him to be on a team that can compete for a Super Bowl. And this team can't. So this Cowboys situation, that's bad. We're not done. This is going to get worse.
I knew what kind of a game this was going to be the moment I turned on my TV yesterday and saw the headlines of sheet metal falling from the roof of Cowboys Stadium and there's, production people, there's players on the field like running out of the way to, make sure that this dangerous hazard, that's falling above them doesn't, slice them in any way.
Yeah, because apparently that's the first time they'd opened the roof in 2 years. So I think that's odd.
So, even the stadium is miserable on top of the actual team that plays in it. And if you happen to listen to this show, not even yesterday, but a week from yesterday, going all the way back 2 Mondays ago, the Cowboys had just come off a beatdown at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I was very adamant on the air. This team is the dumpster fire of all dumpster fires. And when you have a team that is this uniquely bad, you can craft sports betting strategies around how poorly they're going to play. And these are things that you can take advantage of to make yourself some money. And when I came on the air originally putting this out there, I had just successfully laddered the Eagles spread against the Cowboys. They're losing all these games at home by more than 20 points. It doesn't feel like it makes sense. I mean, this team has a winning record on the road, and at home they're 0-5, suffering the worst losses that they've had all year. It goes against all, conventional thinking of, when you typically have an advantage in professional sports. But we don't make the rules for this. We just observe and we capitalize on the trends. So 2 Mondays ago, I came on here. I said, hey, I had all this success on, betting on the Cowboys to get killed by the Eagles, run it back for the Texans. And then on yesterday's episode, I shouted it out from the rooftops again. And I said, go ahead and play a ladder on an alternate spread. You can take the Texans right on their line. It was paying plus 100 at -7.5. You could take them to win by 10. You could take them to win by 14. You can take them to win by 20. I maxed out my ladder at 24 points. That's what I did against the Eagles. That's what I did again yesterday. And fortunately for me and anyone else that listened to that advice, final score 34-10. Just enough to cover the full ladder. And yes, we did get a little bit of help at the very end. The Cowboys ended up going for it on like a 4th down, like in their own territory.
Mm-hmm.
So the Texans were able to take over like with a very short field to the point where it's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and just get another touchdown before this game ends.
Yeah. And of course it's Houston and Dallas. And I don't think that those two cities have the biggest rivalry, but it does mean something to people in Houston that they put it on the Cowboys like that. I've lived in Houston. It means something over there.
Well, and I brought this up with you off the air yesterday, and I should have mentioned something about it on the show, but I said to you, I was like, don't you see like a bunch of Houston Texans fans like showing up? I mean, they're distance-wise, they're not that far away.
It's like an hour and a half, 2-hour drive, maybe.
Well, and then it's just, this Cowboys team is so bad, it's going to discourage the Cowboys faithful from showing up and supporting them. There's going to be...
Which we've seen before. I mean, you being a Cardinals fan, I think you've seen that. Being a Commanders fan, I know I've seen that. There was a Patriots game last year the Commanders played. It was a Patriots home game. It was essentially that at FedEx Field, where they just showed up in droves because they were excited about their team, and the fan base that lives there not excited about theirs. And there's not a whole lot to be excited about right now if you're a Cowboys fan.
Now, I will be completely upfront and direct. Cooper Rush passing yards, CeeDee Lamb receiving yards. I was totally off on those.
Did better than we thought. Did much better than we thought.
But at the same time, if you were someone that bet on Cooper Rush to throw for like 300 plus yards, like before that game even started yesterday, like in my book, you've got issues. Like there was nothing that was pointing to that really being a remote possibility. The guy hadn't thrown for more than 120 passing yards in 2 calendar years. So, unique circumstance. Cowboys obviously couldn't do a whole lot with preventing the Texans to score, so they kept finding themselves with the ball on the offense, and that led to Cooper Rush throwing the ball 55 times. He ended up getting 32 completions, 354 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. CeeDee Lamb caught 8 of those 55 thrown balls for 93 receiving yards. So he was able to clear his line of 60 receiving yards to get that over pretty easily. Now, outside of those 2 guys, anyone else that had a line available on Dallas Cowboys props. You could have taken their under and you would have won. And I say that because the Cowboys were forced to use some players yesterday on the offense that they're just not guys that commonly have betting markets available for them. I'm talking about Kevontae Turpin. I'm talking about Schoonmaker. I'm talking about Brevin Spann-Ford. You know, these are the guys that actually went out and played really well, and no one was really at any real risk of losing money on the fact that they did well because you couldn't even bet on them. So,
yeah, I mean, because if you're a responsible sports book, you wouldn't actually put out lines for those guys, except that those are the human beings that had to suit up and play football Monday night.
Jake Ferguson, unfortunately, suffers a concussion in the first half, so he was done by halftime. You know, that under clears very easily. Even the running back for Dallas, and I am
Rico Dowdle.
53.5. That was his line on rushing yards yesterday.
28. Not even close.
Not even close. I mean, very, very safe unders. So, you know, if you're hearing all this and you're like, oh crap, you know, I remember when Dylan said that, I should have listened to him. Like, I missed out. You know, I'm getting serious FOMO right now over all this success, you know, betting on the Cowboys to be miserable.
Yeah. And yesterday, Cowboys defense, miserable in ways that we kind of expected. They're the 31st ranked rushing defense. I climbed the ladder with Joe Mixon. You know, Joe Mixon rushing yards. I just took him at 25, and then I took him again at 50, and then I took him again at 75. And then the general line that they had was 80. I took that too. And then I took him at 100. And he got to 109, and I should have taken him to score a touchdown too. That would have made things a little bit nicer. But no, it was a day where you could have bet just about anything against Dallas and gotten money. So to your point about having a chance to do this again, there will be a chance to do this again.
You have not missed the boat. If you look towards next week, and I know Keon Rose has a big smile on his face right
maybe
now.
That one's been circled on the calendar for a good long while, potentially.
Washington Commanders get a nice cupcake at home. They are taking on the Dallas Cowboys. The line on this game is available right now on FanDuel. You can't start betting the player props, but if you want to go ahead and just start building that ladder now for next week, line is at 10.5, and it's actually favoring the Cowboys to cover. And, you know, one element about this matchup that really makes me love continuing this same angle of how we've been betting against the Cowboys, it's that the Commanders are actually coming off of 2 losses themselves, and they're in a tight race with the Eagles, you know, to try and win the NFC East. So there's plenty of urgency on the Commanders side, you know, to get back to where they were, you know, and to right the ship and to, you know, put themselves on course to compete with the Eagles to try and win that division.
And the Eagles get the Rams, which is not easy right now. The Rams are red hot. So like if Washington has the chance to see that and potentially figure out like, oh, maybe we could pull ahead in this division again, or at least catch up to Philadelphia. There's a lot of urgency to win this game. Also, when you look at the games that Washington has lost this season, they have lost 4 of them. And all of those teams are good football teams. They lost to Tampa Bay. They lost to Baltimore. They lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to Philadelphia. That's just a bunch of playoff teams. I mean, Tampa Bay might be on the line, but the other 3 are just playoff teams.
Well, and, you know, if you are a team that has a quarterback that is capable of putting up, you know, big offensive performances, and then you also have a quality defense to go with it, like that seems to be the key thing that the Cowboys struggle with is, you know, how balanced is this team that I'm playing against? Because if they're just going to continuously prevent me from scoring on offense and then they just abuse my defense, like this frustration starts to kind of seep into the Cowboys once, you know, a couple scores go on the board and they're being put in their place and there's not a whole lot of hope of actually winning the game. Then it all just starts to get away from them faster and faster. You know, meanwhile, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, but, you know, if you pay attention to the media today, everyone now has finally kind of gotten over this America's team hump and the fact that it's a bigger market, you know, it's Dallas. Everyone is finally starting to call the situation out for what it is.
And looking past the thing, because I don't know, Jerry is so good at making money. He's such a good businessman that people just look at the money that the Cowboys rake in and there's some level of success attributed to them, as opposed to the thing that, I don't know, when I watch my team, I don't care how much money they make. Win football games and try to get to a Super Bowl. That's the thing I thought we were all here for. It's good for Jerry that he's making all that money. And I think that like people are finally looking past the success of the Cowboys financially to see what they are as a football team, which is not a very good one. And they kind of have been in decline for a few years. They have stars at certain points, but this is top to bottom, not a great roster.
Well, and with each loss, they just really compound on each other. You know, the pressure just gets ratcheted up week after week as the narrative gets a little bit more harsh and a little bit more aggressive, because it is just calling out the continued lack of success that the Cowboys have. So at this point, you know, catching them now going into a game on the road against Washington, with where Washington's standing, you know, with the health of their players, with Lattimore, you know, coming in and being able to show what he can do on that defense. This is another prime opportunity to count on the Cowboys to lose big. So if you missed out last night, no big deal. Plenty of games left, plenty of opportunities to bet against the Dallas Cowboys. And you can start by betting on them to defeat the Commanders this coming Sunday. Now that we got that one dumpster fire out of the way, it's only right, Keon, that we acknowledge this other one. That's, you know, we've been talking about this one a little bit longer.
Yeah.
There was a development, though, that really just kind of brought everything to a head today. I am talking about the New York Jets. They decided to fire general manager Joe Douglas today. And Keon, I asked you this question before the show because I truly, I'm trying to just gauge like what is going on over there. The timing of all of these decisions to, you know, fire people, it's just bizarre. You know, the Jets are on a bye week this week, and then they do play next week, not on Thanksgiving, but they play, you know, that weekend on Sunday. That game is a home game, so there's no traveling between now and then. So I have to imagine the mood is going to get a little lighter around the holiday. You know, go spend some time with your families, kind of relax, chill out. Meanwhile, the guy who is essentially the head of our organization, the head of our culture, and, you know, the head of everything that we're doing in the wake of our coach getting, you know, canned weeks ago, we're going to go ahead and just let him go too and just push him out the door. So like, what kind of structure is even going on in New York right now? What kind of organization, what kind of message? Because based on their record, based on this tough loss they just had to the Colts, like there can't be any more hope. I mean, there's really not a whole lot that you can accomplish other than maybe stringing together, you know, a few consecutive wins, try and build the sentiment back up for hope for next year. So, you know, then I just kind of come back to, you know, why now? Why would they fire Joe Douglas right now? And then I wonder, is this the owner, Woody Johnson, maybe conceding that he maybe made a mistake by, you know, firing Saleh and maybe empowering Aaron Rodgers a little too much? Is that what this is? Or is this Aaron Rodgers being the interim GM, so to speak, and making his own decisions? And for some reason, he wants Joe Douglas out the door so that he can try and build, you know, something new and just wipe the slate clean.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Woody Johnson has the self-reflection required to go, oh, I made a mistake here, so I'm going to fire Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas was there for 6 years building, I'm not actually sure what right now. It doesn't look like a good football team in any way. Like they were headed in the right direction along the path, and then they just needed a quarterback. And in the process of acquiring Aaron Rodgers and acquiring Devontae Adams and trying to make the money work, the talent that they had that made this a full, complete roster, they don't even have. So I don't know what this team is, but I do think that, like, I don't know if it's necessarily like Aaron Rodgers is the interim GM necessarily, because I just don't think, because I think people kind of simplify what it takes to be a GM. You also have to know how the numbers work. Like, part of your job is balancing the books of a football team. Aaron Rodgers can't do that. He has no idea how that works. You know, like neither does LeBron when he gets accused of that. Like, these are just people with a lot of influence on personnel, but they can't make all of the other factors of this go. I think what it is, though, is like he's being fired for a failure to appease Aaron Rodgers. Like the team being built around Aaron Rodgers for him to be successful isn't a good team. And they would never blame Aaron for that. So they blamed Robert Saleh, and now they're blaming Joe Douglas, and they are partially at fault. Like, Robert Saleh is not blame-free, neither is Joe Douglas, but Aaron Rodgers is going off scot-free in all of this in terms of who is being punished for the failure of the Jets. Two guys involved were. The third guy is kind of scapegoating them to a degree. And I think that that's kind of what this is like the failure to put a team around Aaron Rodgers that can be successful. Woody Johnson is, according to all reports, just completely enamored by Aaron Rodgers. Like, Rodgers can't do anything wrong in his mind. He would never blame Aaron Rodgers. So he's blaming everybody around him the same way Aaron would. And it's, now you're tearing apart your organization to make Aaron Rodgers happy and make Aaron Rodgers feel good about himself. And good luck with that. I don't know that that's necessarily a recipe for success. In fact, it's not, because you fired your general manager, I assume, to get ahead on your general manager search, but you can't interview anybody until the season's over. So what are you trying to accomplish here?
I just had a interesting thought. The New York Jets' current record, it's 3-8. Mm-hmm. This team has lost 7 out of its last 8 games. So if you go back to when Robert Saleh was fired, I believe that was prior to when they were facing the Bills in week 6, if I have that right. So that would make the Jets' record 1-5 since Robert Saleh got fired. And now I'm just kind of wondering, if they still had Robert Saleh, do you think their record is better than 1-5 since he got fired?
At least for being the guy that people in that locker room worked with and worked behind, and he built the culture there. And then you fired the guy who built the culture. And
3 of those losses have come by 3 points or less.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that Robert Saleh maybe makes the difference, but he wasn't the problem. I think that this more than proves that. I think they are a little better with him there, but even if they're not, he wasn't what was wrong with the team. And I cannot stress enough how stupid it was to go out and get Davante Adams. I'll continue to beat that dead horse because it just blows my mind.
That car's hot. AC is not working.
There's no air conditioning in the car, but it's okay because we got a 5th tire. Like, nobody needed wide receiver help on that team. They needed an offensive line, and there were offensive alignment to trade for. They just didn't do it. The Jets make me mad. They make me mad because, like, at the beginning of the season, there was plenty of reason to hope, and then they systematically took apart every positive advantage that they had. That's all on them.
So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see who is actually running that organization. Maybe we'll get some answers in between now and the end of the season. Keon, I think we're a little bit up against.
We're just a little bit up against a break. So when we come back, we've got NBA. We've got the NBA Cup group play, which always comes with some very, very fascinating betting opportunities. We'll also touch on a little bit of Suns last night. They lost to the Magic. Wasn't good. We'll get into that. And now we'll talk about where the Suns go from here with Kevin Durant being out of the lineup and what they have to do to survive until he gets back. You're listening to Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
At Diamond Dave's Desert Wholesale Diamond,
we offer incredible diamonds, both mined and cultivated, all at amazingly low prices.
Check out these cultivated lab-grown diamond earrings.
2 carats total weight, collection color and lab-grown, only $25.90.
And she'd love this amazing tennis bracelet in natural mined.
4 carats total weight in yellow or white gold, only $39.90.
And how about this diamond chain in cultivated?
12.5 carats total weight, collection color and lab-grown, only $79.90.
And last but not least, especially this year, 1.5 carat floating diamond pendant.
Collection color and lab grown, only $9.90.
Call, email, or message us for an in-person appointment.
Or sit back and relax for free FedEx shipping anywhere in the USA.
Call Diamond Dave at 480-397-2450. That's 480-397-2450. Or follow him on Instagram at Diamond Dave Cantor. That's at Diamond Dave, Kantor.
Everybody's got a podcast these days. Comedy, politics, true crime, you name it. But how many actually teach you anything useful? Harman Solar has an entertaining podcast that is vital if you've been thinking about looking into solar, but you don't know where to start. Ralph and Ben explore the intricacies of utilities, equipment, processes, and more. Their primary objective is to educate and empower you to make informed decisions on your solar journey. So increase your knowledge, not your bills. Go check it out right now. It's the Harmon Solar Podcast at harmonsolar.com.
In most countries of the world, Forte means door. United Forte Custom Doors, located in the Scottsdale Airport Design District, is now open with over 40,000 European doors, all in stock, ready for delivery, and at wholesale prices. Designers, contractors, builders, and yes, you. Come see our showroom on Greenway Hayden Loop. That's United Forte, Porte. Stop by to see and feel the quality at United Forte Custom Doors. Find us at uporte.com. That's uporte.com.
All right, so there we were, cruising through the new open air zoo when I realized that the park was closing in like 15 minutes. That's when the afternoon took an exciting turn. Luckily, we were in my Nissan Rogue. With its powerful DC turbo engine, well, we had more than enough time to see all the animals. Whoa. And outrun a few.
Drive the Nissan Rogue. Now, Nissan offers 6 vehicles starting under $30,000 MSRP. Shop at your local Nissan store or at nissanusa.com. 2024 Nissan Altima, Kicks, Leaf, Rogue, Sentra, and Versa. All prices are manufacturer's suggested retail price. Manufacturer's suggested retail price excludes destination and handling charges, tax, title, license, and options. Dealer sets actual prices.
Now, you can be the guy that eventually gets bits and pieces of the latest news, or you can get the whole story when it breaks. The NFL is always in season here.
That's how we do it.
Follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or at 1580thefanatic.com.
So, Dylan, last night, not great news for our Suns here. The Suns fall to the Magic 109-99. And, boy, this is one of the worst feeling games of the season so far.
And that was where, like yesterday, I said, I hate to put it out into the universe that the Suns are going to lose, a game. So, what I said was, from a betting standpoint, just stay off of it, because you're probably not going to like the end result. And to me, this was one of the first games of the year that I felt like where rest very heavily dictated the result. So, if you look at the Suns, last night was the second night of a back-to-back for them. They had played previously against Minnesota the day before. So that was an afternoon game against Minnesota. After that game, which, by the way, they lost in a very, difficult fashion. They had to hop on a plane, fly back to Phoenix. Then the game happens the following day. But prior to all of that, just back on Friday, the Suns had also played as well. So it was their third game in 4 nights, compounded with the travel. Then you add in the key injuries. There was no Jusuf Nurkic yesterday, no Durant, no Beal. We're down 3 starters. We're really going deeper into the bench to try and compete. And, to the Suns' credit, they hung around as long as they could. But this was a game where the Magic really took control pretty early on. They maintained around a 10-point lead for most of it. And then they did end up ultimately winning by 10 points. So, if you're the Suns right now, little bit of a tailspin. Since Durant went down, we have lost 4 straight games. So you take a look right now at the Suns record, and I'm just pulling that up here. So Suns are currently 9-6. We have a 5-2 record at home. And tomorrow night we play the New York Knicks. That is a primetime game on ESPN. If we don't have Nurkic and Beal for this one, this is just another game where it's going to be really difficult for us to compete with a team like the Knicks that has a lot of talent, 1 through 5 in that starting lineup. Particularly if we're stuck with Mason Plumlee having to guard Karl Anthony Towns, the way that Cat is playing right now. I really don't like that specific matchup for the Suns. Just picturing Plumlee trying to cover Towns on a 3. It's opening up the paint to drives from OG Anunoby and Bridges. And I mean, this is a game where like you want Kevin Durant to be there because he makes us so much more dynamic. Keon, how are you feeling about the Suns right now?
Right now, I think they need Durant or Beal back. You'd prefer to have Durant. I think Durant is the one that makes the entire offense go. And because he is so singularly hard to defend, he makes life easier for just about everybody else out there on the floor. I will, however, accept an appearance for Bradley Beal. Like, I do think having him out there makes this team better than not. And it gives Devin Booker some help. Like, Devin Booker, he's starting to look like rookie Devin Booker again, where it's just, if he doesn't do anything, it's not happening. Offensively, if Devin Booker doesn't score, not happening. If Devin Booker doesn't facilitate, outside of Tyus Jones, it's not really happening. And then on the defensive end, the same thing. Like, Devin Booker's had to play some really tough defensive assignments that were going to guys like Dunn, going to Beal when he was out there, even going to Grayson Allen when Grayson Allen was healthy. Might need him back as well. Like, I just think at some point you're just missing so much scoring and so much offensive responsibility that you just can't ask Devin Booker to do everything, but you have to right now because there's nobody else there. And as long as they're this shorthanded, I don't feel great about them. Don't feel great at all.
Now, I want to kind of tie this back to an actual sports bet that you could look at making. I just happened to pull up the NBA Cup winner odds right now, and it's only fitting considering today is an NBA Cup group play day. So all the games that are occurring right now are going towards that NBA Cup group, round robin that they're doing right now. The Suns get this week off of the NBA Cup stuff since they were doing it last week. They're going to be back the following week. That's actually really important for us because Kevin Durant will be reevaluated this weekend. That's going to be the 2-week mark since he went down with the calf injury. So hopefully we get some good news there. If KD can rejoin the team by early next week, especially with Beal back, that'll bring us back to pretty much full strength. We've already shown we can get by without Nurkic. I'm not that concerned if he's still kind of lagging along. But just getting this big 3 back together is going to go a long way. Mm-hmm. So if you look at these odds right now, the last time I shouted this out, the Suns were priced at about 33-1 to win the NBA Cup. And just because of the last 2 losses, and again, like this isn't even that relevant to NBA Cup, but just because of, things that have been happening lately, Suns have now shot down this list. They're currently priced at 55-1 to win the NBA Cup. They currently have a 1-1 record in the group play. So the challenge to this is whether or not Oklahoma City ends up going undefeated in that group play. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe they have had their game against the Lakers yet. That's going to be the one where, as Suns fans, we're going to be really crossed our fingers and hoping that the Lakers can defeat the Thunder. Because if they can get them down to 1 loss, and we also have 1 loss, then there is potential for us to still come out of that group play stage. So I definitely see value in backing the Suns still to win the NBA Cup. And there's actually something else I want to bring up just about the NBA Cup and this whole dynamic. Keon, I know you were getting some texts like last Saturday about this. Mm-hmm. With NBA Cup and with scenarios where there's tiebreakers, the way that they determine who wins the tiebreaker for the NBA Cup, it actually moves over to your point differential.
Yeah, Big Jake was the one on the text line.
So Big Jake, he was smart for pointing this out because normally I'm not someone that likes to play like overs and unders really on NBA games. It's just never been something that I've gravitated towards. However, if there's something external going on that is influencing why a couple of teams might score a lot more points than normal, then that gives me good enough reason to buy into it and to, embrace betting an over or an under. So what's been going on in these NBA Cup games lately? Well, not only do these teams want to win, but it actually benefits them to try and win by the largest margin possible. Because in the event that any of these teams in group play finds themselves in a tie, once all the round robin games are done, then the next thing that they look at to try and determine who's going to advance is who has the highest point differential. So point differential being the sum of all of the differences in your scores from all the games that you've played. So if you've won 4 straight games, they're going to take the sum of how many points you won by for each of those games. That's your point differential. So why is this important? Well, these teams are now incentivized to essentially run up leads if they can get them. They want to blow these teams out by, not just 10 points. They want to do it by 20. They want to do it by 30, where, normally if a team is up 20 points in the fourth quarter,
you coast to the end.
You coast to the end. You bench your starters. You don't need to play them. There's 3 minutes left. Let's let the, the younger guys get some run in. That's normally how that situation works. For an NBA Cup game, that's not what these teams do. And this is important from a betting perspective, because what ends up happening is they want to beat you to a bloody pulp, because that's what's going to benefit you in the event that you tie with someone else in your group play. So you look at these lines for today and how this might translate. And first and foremost, there absolutely is a trend within the NBA Cup games of the overs hitting. Why? Because all these teams are still incentivized to play their best lineups all the way through to the end to try and maximize the amount of points that they win by. Or if you're that team that's down, but maybe you have a good record and you're trying to protect your win margin, have some incentive to continue to play your best guys, even though the game is out of sight and you're more than likely going to lose. So these are things that are important to keep in mind. If you go to the Beat the Book website today and you see all the different picks that I put out for the NBA games today, they are predominantly player props. I've picked a couple of teams to win, but I have not picked any specific over-unders. But I do just want to shout this out conceptually, because it really doesn't get enough credit, especially from sports betting media. This is something that we got to see play out last year. This is only the second year ever of NBA Cup play. So in terms of, having years of data to work with to identify this, we don't quite have that yet. We're working with the most that we got. But there's been enough games to happen under these circumstances, even going back to last week where, we know this to be pretty credible. So that being said, there's a pretty big matchup that's happening tonight. And then outside of that one matchup, I think the other games that are happening are a little bit more for the basketball purists of the world.
The basketball purists, or some of the gambling DJs we have out here on the show, because look, I have seen some of the bets that you all have sent me, and there are some of y'all, and you know who you are. You will bet on anything. I have seen it. I'm not judging, because I'm turning into one of you, so that's interesting. But I have seen it. It's you'll bet on any game, and there's a few tonight that have some interesting opportunities.
There absolutely are. We're going to shout those out. But I think we should start with the game that features the one undefeated team in the NBA, as well as the second best team in the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers are taking on the Celtics in Boston tonight. And when you look at the line, right now, Boston is a 5.5 point favorite, despite being that second place team in the East with 3 losses. The Cavaliers are 15-0. And then you look over at the over under, and this is the second highest over under on the, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the highest over under line on the slate today. It's at 236.5. Now, why is it so high? It's because both of these teams are first and second in most points per game as a team. So you've got like the 2 best offenses in the league going at it. All the star players are set to go. Cleveland's got some potential injuries with like some role players that may or may not end up playing. They're going to be game time decisions. But, everyone else that you'd be counting on to, really impact this one is going to be there. If you check out that Beat the Book post, the very first pick of the day that I put on there, it is for the Cleveland Cavaliers to win on the money line. Just with how this is priced right now on the money line, it's plus 184, almost 2-1. Again, I mean, you're not missing like anyone significant from your starting lineup.
For Cleveland, the 3 game time decisions tonight would be Karis LeVert, Sam Merrill, and Isaac Okoro.
So again, and I mean, I guess
Okoro maybe, but you're not missing anything from Merrill, and not anything from LeVert either. I don't think not a ton.
Not anything that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell wouldn't be able to give you just by playing heavier minutes.
Doesn't play. That would almost help those numbers if you were trying to bet scoring overs for either of those guys.
So look, I mean, the Cavaliers have not lost yet. They lead the league right now in efficiency, in most points per game. This is a very well-rounded team. It appears to be pretty battle-tested at this point.
I mean, you're 15-0. You're doing something right.
You're doing something right. And look, I mean, if Donovan Mitchell was going to be out, if Darius Garland was going to be out, if Evan Mobley was going to be out, or Jared Allen at that point, I'd probably pause a little bit. And I go, yeah, I don't know if they can really swing this. But if you're giving me all those guys and you're going to give me almost 2-1 odds on the Cavs, money line, that's just too much value to ignore there. And then, if you're thinking over under on this one, I would not be afraid of doing the over here. You take a look at what these teams each average on, offense, and they're both scoring basically in the neighborhood of like 123 points per game. So, combined, they're averaging roughly 245 points per game. And, this might be heavily defense first half, but more than likely, this is just going to be like an offensive overload game because both of these teams are incentivized to try and score as much as they can because of the nature of it being an NBA Cup game. Keon, I mean, do you see the Celtics having a shot in this one?
I think they do. These teams feel very evenly matched to me. You mentioned the scoring. The Cavaliers are the number 1 scoring offense in the NBA. The Celtics are the number 2 scoring offense. Do you know what their defensive positions are?
The exact same.
It was like 111.4 points per game, each of them. They're almost identical. They don't play the same way, but they get the same results. And I think that that's really interesting. They're both well coached. They're both deep and talented. I think that this is going to be a great game. And I think the Celtics have more than what it takes to hang in this game. The question is, what kind of shooting night do the Celtics get? Because they're very 3-point dominant. And so they live by the 3, but they also die by the 3. You have a bad shooting night from the Celtics, and this thing probably gets over early.
I was going to say, because of the dynamic of not having Kristaps Porzingis right now and being a little more shorthanded than normal in the front court, I mean, you're going up against 2 7-footers here in Mobley and Jared Allen. If those threes are not falling for the Celtics, they're going to get themselves into trouble because I do expect Cleveland to have a bit of an edge when it comes to that inside game, particularly Evan Mobley and his potential to get offensive rebounds and really easy putbacks. That's the kind of thing that the Cavs have just been eating on, so far this season. And that's the exact weakness that the Celtics may have when they're going to put Luke Cornett or potentially Xavier Tillman, in there to try and stop Mobley from getting that done. He's so lengthy that he'll just be able to just kind of reach over those guys and get whatever
I
he
hope
wants.
they don't put Cornett in there. I think Cornett gets killed if they do that. Also, the Celtics, known for being very deep, missing Peyton Pritchard tonight, potentially. He's a game-time decision as well. If he doesn't play, then there's a little more depth there that Boston can't turn to moving forward. So we've got a couple of other really good matchups tonight. We'll break that down on the other side. We're going to talk about Hornets versus Nets and Nuggets versus the Grizzlies. Who do we like to win? And what are the props, the numbers that you can bet? We'll take a look at that. Coming up, this is Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Live and local. It's fall football on The Fanatic. Catch all the live game play-by-play. Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday day and night NFL games. Plus the Saturday NCAA football game of the week. It's all right here on the Valley's home for football. 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic. Brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Learn more at Viking.com.
Looking for a gift for your kids or loved ones? Consider getting them something they'll use for the rest of their lives. An education. Open an AZ 529 education savings plan today. Contribute just $50 a month, and they'll have nearly $20,000 by graduation. Plus, your money grows tax-free and can be used for college, vocational school, or workforce training. An AZ 529 account will help them unwrap their full potential. Learn more at az529.gov.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
It's fall football season, and Kasai Japanese Steakhouse is doubling down. Now with 2 Valley locations. When it comes to Asian cuisine, no one does it better and more authentic than Kasai, where talented Teppan chefs create the food, the fire, and the fun of teppanyaki. Kasai Japanese Steakhouse isn't just dinner, it's dinnertainment. A memorable dining experience where a delicious 7-course meal is paired right at your table with flair. It's a perfect choice for celebrations, date nights, or a night on the town. Choose from over 30 different items and combinations of teppanyaki, Asian fusion, and innovative sushi. Happy hour is always on fire and offered daily with specials on their Asian-inspired comfort food like Korean steak tacos, Mongolian barbecue ribs, and signature Wagyu beef sliders. Always a memorable dinner, or catch the game and a bite at the bar at Kasai. Now with 2 locations, Scottsdale Road in Thunderbird, and in Peoria at the 101 in Northern. Go to KasaiTeppan.com. That's Kasai Teppan.com, or search Kasai on your mobile phone.
The GCU men's basketball squad is coming off their winningest season in 35 years, their 3rd trip to the NCAA tournament in 4 years, and their first ever NCAA tournament victory. Returning 4 of their 5 starters in Ray Harrison, Colin Moore, Duke Brennan, and reigning WAC Player of the Year, Tyon Grant Foster, the Lopes look to defend their WAC titles and make a run to the Sweet 16. With a non-conference slate, including Stanford, Georgia, and crosstown rival Arizona State, you won't want to miss a moment of the action. So join me, Michael Potter, and Lopes insider Paul Coro all season long, right here on the home of the Lopes, 1580 The Fanatic. Lopes up.
This is Brian Musburger. Don't miss Betting Across America, Saturdays at 11 a.m. right here on Arizona Sports Betting Station, 1580 and 99.3. The Fanatic.
So NBA tonight, NBA Cup games. We talked Cavs and Celtics. That's the big one. That's the fun one to watch. But there are, as they say, some games that matter to some, and they matter to us because we bet games. And so we got Hornets, Nets. We've got Nuggets and Grizzlies. DC, where you want to go, man?
Why don't we start with Hornets, Nets? Up front, I can understand where there's not a whole lot of interest in a game like this. I mean, these are 2 of the teams that are
There's 2 5-win basketball teams, maybe 16, 17 games into the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys are they're towards the bottom of the totem pole, of the NBA. But with this being a cup game with the extra incentive there to drive up the scoring, it does create interesting betting scenarios. So when you look at the Charlotte Hornets, they've got a guy right now on this team that is top 5 in the NBA in scoring. His name is LaMelo Ball. He gives very colorful post-game interviews that cost him money.
That cost him $100K this last time.
Well, right, and by the way, I mean there's been others already this season. You just have to do a little bit of searching.
LaMelo, is he capable of gaining a filter ever? Like, I genuinely, he cannot say every single thought you have. He says it exactly how it pops into his head too. So I don't know, man. Like, you can't swear on TNT.
I feel like someone in Hornets PR has some kind of a shock, not like a collar, maybe it's like a wristband or something, and they could just zap him every time. So he's like, oh crap, I messed up again.
Just come on, man. just be. There's a reason why cliches exist. Use them.
Exactly. So one thing LaMelo does very well is he scores the ball. Right now on the season, he's averaging about 30 points per game. And when you look at how he has performed over his last 5 games, he's actually scored 30 or more points in 4 of those. And the Hornets themselves, they actually have been surprisingly competitive if you've been watching. If you go and you look at their record right now, yeah, they've only won 2 out of their last 5 games. But who do they play? They played at Cleveland and they lost. Well, go figure. So is everyone else. They played at Orlando, who is actually currently the best defensive team in the NBA. They lost. I'm not going to really hold that against them. They went to Philadelphia and they lost in overtime by only 2 points. And by the way, in that game, LaMelo had 38 points. He had 35 on the Magic. He had 31 against the Cavs. The only time where he didn't score at least 30 or more in his last 5 games, it was in a home win against Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. So point that I'm trying to make here is, first and foremost, LaMelo is on fire right now. He's scoring the ball. But number 2, this Hornets team, even though the record says 5-8, and even though Brooklyn is favored by 2.5 points, I think it's not really contextualizing like how decent they've actually been on the court. So, when you're looking at who's going to win this game between the Hornets and the Nets, definitely there's value there on backing the Hornets on the money line. Right now on FanDuel, just taking a look at this game, the Hornets are priced at plus 130 on the money line. So you can get over even money just by taking Charlotte to win. But then if you want to look at actual player props, you go to LaMelo Ball. His line on points tonight is only 27.5, and it's actually leaning towards the under. But here's another kind of element to this matchup that makes me really like LaMelo and for him to have a big game. You look at the Nets starting backcourt. That would be Dennis Schroeder and Cam Thomas. Dennis Schroeder stands at 6'1". Cam Thomas is 6'3". LaMelo Ball is 6'7". Like, he is that really tall point guard that's lengthy, that gives you problems on the defense because he's actually kind of built more like a forward that just has the ball handling and the agility of a guard.
Yeah.
Which is a very dangerous combo to try and contain.
If LaMelo ever learns to post anybody up, that's going to be a problem.
That, I mean,
that's just going to be a problem.
That's going to be a huge problem. Not to mention like a really reliable fader on that. I mean, remember when LeBron added that to his game when he was in Miami?
Yeah, he was unstoppable.
It took him to another level. I mean, so there's still more that LaMelo can add to this, but his ability to make like very long distance, deep 3-pointers just on a complete
logo
win.
threes. Yeah.
I mean, there's only a handful of people in the league that can do those kinds of things like LaMelo. So very much like him to have a big game here and continue that 30-point trend. If you wanted to take LaMelo to score 30 or more, it's paying plus 130. If you wanted to take him to get 35 or more, now you're looking at just under 3-1 odds. Again, he has done that a couple of times in his most recent games. So that could be the kind of performance that you get out of him. Now, if you look at the other side of this matchup, Cam Thomas, who I just mentioned before, that would be the starting shooting guard for the Brooklyn Nets. This is a guy that on any given game, he has the potential to just explode. And you haven't quite, I mean, you actually have seen it from him. He just dropped 43 points a couple of games ago. But all of the other games kind of in between there, he's been meddling in like the kind of 16, 17 point range. This Hornets defense that he's about to face, they rank in the bottom third of the league for, most points allowed to opposing teams. So it's just very good conditions for Cam Thomas, playing at home in a game where the Nets probably are going in thinking that they can win this one. They are favored by 2.5 points. It should give Cam Thomas just that extra amount of confidence that he needs to string together a hot shooting night. He definitely has the potential to do that against the Charlotte Hornets. So if you're looking at Cam Thomas's line, that one is sitting right at 24.5, leaning under. You can actually take him for 25 or more points in this game, and you can get over an even money payout on it. So that's honestly, anytime you can get that on Cam Thomas, I would say that that's pretty good value. And that's another bet that you can look to place there. So when it comes to that game, those are the things I'm looking forward to. Those two guys stepping up, having big scoring performances. If you wanted to look at taking the over in this game, both of these teams are not very talented defensive teams. They're a lot more offensive minded. This would be another one where I think you could look to take the over. It's currently at 221, paying minus 110. And then if we just want to jump over to that Nuggets and Grizzlies game real quick, I'm bummed on this one. Nikola Jokic did get ruled out. He was really going to be the bigger betting opportunity on that. But someone that you can look to play here is actually going to be Christian Brown on the Denver Nuggets. Whenever Jokic doesn't play, the next two guys that have the most usage on that team, that would be Jamal Murray and that would be Christian Brown. Christian Brown just played 34 minutes against the Grizzlies. This game is basically a back-to-back where they're playing the Grizzlies again. His line is at 13.5 points. I would go ahead and feel comfortable taking the over, considering this is an NBA Cup game, and there should be stronger emphasis on trying to put up points. So that's another one you can play in that game.
Yeah, very, very good stuff there. And then a lot of opportunities for you to bet. Obviously, you want to head over to the 1580 The Fanatic page. Click on the Beat the Book logo if you want to read the posts, if you missed anything on the show today, as well as checking out Dylan Cohen's 6-point play. A lot of information that you can get there to fill in some of these gaps and to maybe give you some other ideas that you can bet with. And then when you do, why don't you do us a favor and come back around right here on this show and tell us how you did. What did you manage to put together? What did you manage to win? We love to see you guys make money and help you beat the book. This is 1580, The Fanatic.
Hi, I'm Mike Ham with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Week 11 came to a close Monday night in Dallas for the Cowboys. Lost their 5th straight game, falling to the Texans 34-10. Joe Mixon ran for 109 yards, found the end zone 3 times. Houston broke a 2-game losing streak. They're now 7-4 on the season. In the Big Apple, Brian Daboll has confirmed that Daniel Jones has been benched as the Giants starting quarterback. Tommy DeVito will get the nod Sunday against the Bucs, while Drew Lock will serve as the team's backup. Some other quarterback news to get to. Dave Canales announced on Monday that Bryce Young will remain the Panthers starter for their Week 12 matchup against the Chiefs. And sticking in Carolina, rookie running back Jonathan Brooks, he is expected to make his NFL debut Sunday after spending the first half of the season rehabbing from a torn ACL in his right knee. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this: if something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month. With a few health questions